What is up, everybody? Shannon here, and today I'm going to show you guys 6 techniques to use with your Zero Colorless blender. So with that, I'm going to explain a little bit of this template here and all these flowers. So basically, I have the 6 different techniques that I'm going to show listed out. Applying the Zero blender before the color, applying it after the color, using it as an eraser. It's not truly an eraser. It's kind of like water in a watercolor painting. It can do a lot, but it can't necessarily take away everything. We have using the super brush nib of your Zero blender to create like effects that are really fun. Very fun. I love this one. Blending 2 or more colors together from the same color family or different. I've got 2 in the same family here in the same color group, YR. And then how to use the blender to create highlights. I might bring in a blue color here just for contrast. But anyways, we'll get there when we get there. Let's start with number 1, applying the Zero blender before the marker color. So I use these a lot. I've had these for a very long time. The Copic Chow version of the blender and the Sketch version. This one is pretty beat up. I've used it a lot. So I have both, just in case one runs out on me and I need to refill it. But yeah, they both have this super brush nib, which is awesome. And they're both capable of quite a bit. So, that being said, I'm going to take my Sketch version of this Zero blender right now. And just for this bottom petal, I'm going to color in this entire like large area, not the highlight part, but I'm just going to get that soaked. And I'm going to choose my lighter YR14, and then I'm going to add that on top. So really, there's 2 layers of ink there. One just has color and one doesn't. Now right here, I'm going to swatch out what that color normally looks like. From what you're seeing on this video camera, you might not see a huge difference. But to me, this looks a lot more saturated, like a different color, like it's received 2 layers, but really it's just one. So I'm going to put YR14 just as a note. And for comparison's sake, this petal right here, I'm just going to color straight up. Just the marker. So again, to me, sitting where I am with the naked eye, it looks very different. But for you on the screen, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But there definitely is a difference between adding that blender first. I'm going to try it again for this next petal. And the reason I'm only going 1 petal at a time is because alcohol ink absorbs pretty quickly. So by the time I finish all of these, this first one could be dry. And that defeats the purpose of what I'm trying to do. So I like to work, when I apply this technique, it's to small areas like this. And then I have to cap a lot. That's all. Cap the marker and move on. But yeah, let's go over here and soak in that petal area. Perfect. And apply that YR14. And now that all of these petals around this one, I think it's becoming more obvious that this one doesn't look as soaked or saturated because we applied the Zero blender before. And what this Zero blender is, it has the same solution as the colored markers, just without color. So you're just applying pure alcohol pigment to the page. Let's flip this over too. You can tell. These 2, I definitely applied more of the Zero blender. This one is just the straight up color. So you can tell it's definitely soaking into the page more. But yeah, it's producing a much more vibrant color as well. Okay, now let's take a look at what it looks like after. I'm going to stick with that same YR14 just so you have comparison. Okay, I'm going to stick with the same kind of petals at the bottom. easy for me to color. Okay, finish that. Take this and go on top. This is going to make it look lighter than that. Kind of let that soak in. Okay, I'm going to do this one next. Okay, quickly cap it. Get that blender out, go over the same area. Yeah, so this technique is really good for when you have a dark color, but you don't have a lighter color necessarily nearby, or you don't own it in general. So if you have the blender, you can lighten a color pretty simply. Again, I'm going to take just this for comparison, straight out of the tube, right next to it, and it does look different. I guess I could have used this as an example in one of the battles instead of coloring right next to it, but yeah, this is a very common subtractive type of technique used in watercolor painting. And so if you're a multimedia artist and you use watercolors, this type of technique is extremely similar to what you could probably already be using. And I'm just going to leave this one as is with YR14. Okay, let me go ahead and set these aside. I'm going to leave some notes here as I keep chugging along. I'm just going to say just YR14. And then this one is also just YR14. And these all have that 0 blender after. And these 3 have it before. Okay. Next up, number 3, use the 0 Colorless blender as an eraser. This one is tricky. So maybe, yeah, I'll just stick with the same color for this top area. So I'm going to fill in this, and then whoops, I got distracted. My cat jumped off the table. I don't know. But either way, I've colored outside the lines. Well, this stinks. I can't press Control-Alt-Delete. So I'm going to take that 0 blender, and I'm going to kind of push it away and apply that to all of these areas. Because again, just like we learned right here, it's a subtractive quality. It's not going to get rid of it all. Like, it's just going to lighten it, right? It's not really a magic eraser. We don't have that capability with this. But you can tell the paper's already getting kind of soaked, so I'm going to wait. We can check the other side. Yeah, you can tell I'm adding lots of layers right there to get rid of it. And you can tell on the back, wow, just that YR14 versus adding the alcohol. Wow, that really makes a difference. It's kind of cool. The back of the paper really tells quite the story, not just the front. Okay. So yeah, we're already seeing it kind of erase, but again, it's not, I'm gonna let that sit for a while because I can tell it's still very wet. But that's the general gist of that technique. Just take that brush and push it in. Try and get it away. It's not going to solve the entire problem, but it does definitely look a lot lighter than it was. So maybe this isn't a background. Maybe you can color this with like a YR00. Try and minimize it more. But you could definitely use the brush tip of the 0 blender to push it away. Okay, next, use various angles of the super brush nib for subtractive stylized effects. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use my darker color that I brought to the table today. This is YR18. I'm going to color one of these petals, maybe I'll do 3. So it's easier to tell and I have more space to work with. But I'm just going to fill these petals in. I don't know why, but leaving this middle part open, it just, I don't know, looks really nice. Yeah, what the heck. Might as well do one more. Okay, filling it in. Perfect. Maybe the middle too. Why not? Heck, maybe I'll add that up here too. That'll make these look a little more zesty. Cute. Okay. Now I've done that. I've got my zero blender. And I love this technique personally. I use the side of the brush and I make like a little flower petal. I'm going to hold it 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So the ink has time to spread. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So you can start to see it kind of moving around. Yeah. 1, 2, 1, 2. Down here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, if you hold it down for too long, it starts to, you know, puddle and it doesn't look good. And I can hold it straight down like a dot too. 2 seconds. 1, 2. So you can, you know, don't press too hard that you ruin your nib or like it bends or something. But yeah, you can create really cool like subtractive qualities. So you're lightening up that area. This ink is pushing away and it's making the darker pigment. That's why I also chose a darker color here. It's more obvious with dark colors. I can do the same technique up here and you can tell, but it's not going to be as drastic. Well, yeah, you can turn your nib to the side, to the top to make a dot, somewhere in between. But yeah, you can use the Zero Blender to create stylized effects. Very nifty. Blend 2 or more colors together from the same color family or different. Perfect. Looks like I already got that right now. So I'm going to take the dark one first. I always like to start with my dark. I'm gonna ignore these boundaries. I'm just gonna flick it out. And quickly add in this very nice burnt orange. I love orange colors. These earthy kind of oranges. Oh, so pretty. Okay, then I'm gonna take my lighter, YR14, and go inward. And I'm just doing one layer. Just like the other color, the darker one. Okay. I guess I didn't actually have to color the whole flower. I got pretty ambitious there. And now I'm going to take that blender because we can see some marker streaks. I could keep going over it again with YR14, but this is also fun and very nice because it lightens up the whole area. And I work quickly. I kind of scribble it. Let the ink have time to blend. Especially that dark one with the light one. I don't know, it's just like a radial glow. You can definitely, like I said, use just the other markers. You don't have to use this blender because it does make it lighter. It's what it does. It's just alcohol. Yeah, I think that looks nice. I like that kind of painterly effect. If, however, you want to go over it again with this kind of YR14 from the inside out where that dark color is, to really tie together all that fade. Oh, that looks really nice. Yeah, the Zero Blender it's almost like a texture generator that you wouldn't normally get with just standard markers. So I love it in that sense as well. Last but not least, use Blender to create highlights. Okay, this is again much easier to tell with a darker color. So I'm going to color in the entire petal with this YR18. And I'll just do the top and bottom ones for now. What the heck. Might as well color in at least a few more. There we go. And we'll start with that. Take that 0 and I'm going to flick from here and out. Just 3 lines. 1, 2, 3. Repeated twice. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And this is going to be more subtle. And you're going to need to like allow it time to kind of show up. Okay. It's a very similar technique to number 4. In fact, it is pretty similar. It's just a different way to brush your stroke. Here, we're laying down the marker in certain ways to get a particular shape. I think a lot of people don't utilize the nib as much as they possibly could. Maybe this is easier to show. So like you can just hold it vertically and get a dot. You can turn it all the way to the side and get that petal, which is really neat. And then you do somewhere in between, kind of like a tiny petal. But there's so much you can do, and you can do that with the Zero blender as I did over here. I think it looks really nice. Same with the Zero blender to get some highlights there. All I'm doing is this technique where I'm flicking it up, but with the Zero blender. There's no color. So you're going to get kind of that texture, grainy effect of the marker pigment underneath, which is really, really cool. So I think that about wraps it up here with some various techniques on how to use the Zero Colorless blender. A very popular item to add to anyone's Copic toolkit. I've had mine for years. It's very beat up, but it's so functional. It adds texture and play and a really easy way to help blend colors. So I hope that you guys check this out in our line art gallery and print this out yourself on some marker paper and give it a go.